I remember that it was key for me, the expression like Rosa normally mentioned, don't be afraid because you don't have the tools, because you can get the tools that you need while you are getting into the, in the process. It will be next step by step. And I remember that was key for me, because remember, I have experience as a facilitator in my country, but I feel myself very weak with the terminology, since even though I can speak the language, I can communicate with people, I can write, I can do my best to be understood. But at the same time, I feel that I need to get on the right terminology where I am speaking about what I can do, because you use completely different terminology. And the other point is that you were mentioning, or you were referring to the use of these new tools, that this era is bringing up to everybody, with the electronic and with all the editing that is available. And you were saying that the majority of the people that were there used to were working as an instructional designer, but they were also feeling like me, that they were missing some tools in the how do you call that, technical, maybe tools that you need nowadays, like editing videos, like adding I don't know how to say that in at this point, but I don't know if I went too far.
Yeah, so I think the point that we're trying to make, Maria, is that all of us that shared in that event, none of us came up through the educational path. We
Right.
all kind of became what is called in the industry an accidental instructional designer. I found this career.
See, I need that terminology.
Yeah, I found this industry by accident. I came out of the television industry. I went to University of Central Florida as a communications major, focusing on radio and television, hoping that Florida was about to become Hollywood East. So this was back in the late 80s, early 90s. And the reality was that didn't happen. And I kind of had to poke around for about 3 years till I found technical writing. And I did technical writing for about a year or two. I learned about, online help systems, things like that. One of the temp jobs I had a gentleman that was there, it was a college friend of mine. And it turned out that he was in the training team at AAA. We have AAA headquarters here in Orlando. And he was sharing with me, what he did. And it sort of piqued my interest a little, but it didn't sit. So I kind of kept going. And as a technical writer, I did online help, and I figured out, this is kind of a storytelling method. I mean, I modeled the Dummies books because they were really popular at the time and all of the content that I created. And I learned it. I didn't know how to do it. I was actually pretty terrible at grammar. It turned out that a buddy of mine was an English major, and he was my editor. He worked with me and became my editor. At some point, I changed careers and I went to work for a company called Computer Associates over in Sarasota. And while I was there, they put a gentleman in my office with me, and it turned out he had the title of instructional designer. And I was doing multimedia type stuff. So I was their Word expert, I was their PowerPoint expert, and I was working with the gentleman who was a graphic artist, and I would create their what was at that point in time called a CBT, which was a computer-based training. It's in a browser, it's got a picture, it's got some text, and it's got a hyperlink at the bottom that says next. And you click next and you go to the next page and the next page and so on and so forth. And it's, I was like, this is kind of cool. I'm able to kind of tell a story, but I really like what that instructional designer guy is doing. That's really cool. And that's when I learned what an instructional designer was. Then I took a job over in Melbourne, Florida with Harris Publishing. I don't know if any of you know the Harris Corporation. They do government type stuff. And Harris Publishing was the original version of that. They did newspaper software. And I learned about being an online virtual trainer because I would train people online, and the multimedia type tools were getting better. There was a tool, Macromedia Authorware was what it was called. And it was a beast. I had like a 700-page book on how to build authorware programs. And I learned how to build interactive simulations and things. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh my gosh, I can tell the stories that I want to tell because this is now using what it was Adobe Flash, which is now defunct. It's not a thing anymore. But that kind of gave way and started moving in towards video. And that's kind of when Captivate came out with Robo Demo. And you could actually capture screens and do, simulations and such. And I kind of moved my way through, and we got involved in like online broadcasting and things. And that gets us to where I am today. So that's a little of my history, but it's also kind of tells you that I totally didn't know what I was doing, right? I fumbled my way through and figured it out. And you'll find that a lot of people in the industry do that.